Hi guys, happy Sunday with Satan. It's always a good Sunday. Well, kinda. So yes, I did get a haircut. No, this is not a wig. And back to witch history. The urban legends are really, really amazing, especially when I can go back and I can just pinpoint, from movies to lore, state lore, worldwide lore, or pin it down to just one small location. So I thought this was pretty interesting, bringing up all the witches in Indiana, which is pretty cool. So I've done this one before. So this is the Witch's Castle in Utica, Indiana. And is it scary or is it something sacred? So there's two conflicting stories about this, the Witch's Castle. So we're not 100% sure. I don't even know where this place is. I don't think it's far from me. So one day, yes, I will definitely go there. Maybe just, I don't know, if I get kicked out, which I really honestly don't get kicked out of places except for concerts. Stuff like that, for pretending my seat is front row. Anyways, that was years ago. So, alright. Utica. So the legend around this. So the legend says that a coven of witches used to live in the crumbling stone structure hidden in the trees of Utica. It's probably Utica. Utica's riverside. If you guys want to, you guys can look up Utica Witch's Castle. Just Google search it with images. Gorgeous. It is gorgeous. So, but yeah. The other bucolic residents don't like the women, and they burn down their home, earning the eternal ire of the sorceresses. Sounds funny. And giving their former house the infamous Witch's Castle moniker. So, forever after, this site became a place for daring teenagers to explore and sadly to fucking vandalize it. Which is really shitty. So, while Jenny Stewart heard that myth as a local high schooler in the 80s, she doesn't believe it to be true, and neither does Darlene Roach, a former owner of the property. Well, what do they know? How do they know that it didn't date back before their time? Huh? Mrs. Darlene and Jenny? So, alright. So yeah, obviously they don't, believe this to be true, that the witches actually did live there. But that's about where the similarities end. So, Stewart, a paranormal investigator. Oh, is she now? Are you? Huh. So, alright, I love how paranormal investigators, off topic, but they are instant experts on the Ouija. I love it. Alright, so, Stewart, a paranormal investigator, thinks the ruins are forever haunted. Well, of course, you have to keep your business going. You have to keep your business going. You have to keep your paranormal investigation team equipped with new equipment, upgrades, all that stuff. So, of course. Alright. Where'd I go? So yes, the Stewart, she thinks that the ruins are forever haunted, so the site of a shocking mass murder. Oh. So that would just be an imprint in time. It's just an imprint then. So, here we go. While Roach claims that the property is sacred. Okay, I would go with Roach. And the former location of a legendary settlement. Both could be correct. So, the real story. So, Roach bought Mistletoe Falls. Oh god, Indiana is so full of Christmas. We have Santa Claus, Indiana, Mistletoe Falls, and many others. Alright, so the property had fallen into disrepair. But at one time, it was a giant refuge within the woods of Clark County. Damn it. Oh, I wasn't even alive in the 1940s. Okay, so J. Paul Druin owned the property in the 1940s, Roach said, a fact that is backed up by Clark County Recorder's Office documents. So Roach said that Druin was recently separated from his wife, and he chose the property for its role in the legend of Prince Madoc. So Madoc was a Welsh prince who set sail to a foreign land, now thought to be America. Interesting. Quite. So, in the 1100s, long before Christopher Columbus ever set foot on the continent, that's crazy, wow. So, while widely considered in the academic community to be unlikely, some historians believe that Madoc and his crew landed in Alabama and eventually traveled all the way up to what is now Jeffersonville. So, there, they supposedly built a massive fort from stone, as well as satellite settlements. Wow. That's amazing. That's really crazy going back that far. So, alright. Where'd I go? Where'd I go, guys? Oh, there I am. Okay, so Roach and perhaps Druin, however you say his last name, believed Mistletoe Falls to be one of those outposts. So, Durain threw himself into building a home on the ancient land with help of a contractor named Brownie King. So, according to Roach. So, the house Druin created, located at the bottom of his property, was charming, but his real accomplishment was a stone chapel connected to the house by a pathway. How beautiful would that be? For a stone chapel for witches. We don't have any kind of chapels or any kind of anything except for nature, which is probably the best way to go. So, okay, the small oratory sat on a bed of limestone and was supposedly built from rock painstakingly excavated from the land George Rogers Clark received in exchange for his takeover of British outposts during the Revolutionary War. Alright, so the chapel was cleverly created. It was built to resemble a tugboat sitting on stone waves. So, Druin decorated it with grist mill wheels from stones imported from France, who had good taste, obviously. And its windows were high-quality stained glass, but most importantly to Roach. Druin's pastor father consecrated the structure, making it sacred in her mind. So, it obviously would be a sacred spot. So, but Druin eventually sold his pet project. He and his wife were united, but she wanted him to sell the home, Roach said. So, Joseph Biaggi bought the property, but it was under his watch that tragedy struck. His stepson set Druin's creation on fire, damaging the structure beyond repair and leaving it in a hollowed state, uninhabitable for people. But the perfect spot for legends to grow and thrill seekers to visit. So, it may be haunted, it may not be haunted. From what I'm gathering now, it's more of a sacred site. Which is amazing. We need more of that. A lot more of that. Sadly, we don't. Alright, so, his boy, stepson. Never mind, I'm not even going to say anything. Alright, so, Roach never experienced anything supernatural at Mistletoe Falls. She wanted to fix the property up, built in 1992. Oh, but in 1992, I was going to say, that's wow. Her land was thrown into a media whirlwind. So, Shonda Scherer, a New Albany preteen, was driven to Madison, Indiana, and tortured and murdered by several other teenagers. God, that is sick. That is sad. What is wrong with you teenagers these days? That's sad. But before she was taken there, the group stopped at Mistletoe Falls. Nothing torturous happened to her there, but Roach says that the local television stations and newspaper used the ruins on her land to dramatize the story. Okay, so there's a small connection, which really isn't a connection at all. So, quote, there was nothing to show in Madison, Roach said. Big, empty, open field. That's what Indiana is. So they exploited my property to the point they trespassed on it. Well, that's when you call the police. And you're in Indiana, too, so that's when you get your firearms out. A lot of people are going to hate me for saying that, but you have to protect your own. You do. It's true. Okay, so the coverage led even more people to the so-called Witch's Castle. I've never heard this. I've never heard this news story at all. So yes, the coverage led even more people to the so-called Witch's Castle, some of whom wanted it gone. Why? Why would you want something so historical gone and so beautifully built? I mean, that thing is gorgeous. Whatever. So, okay, so Roach said that she received death threats and endured constant vandalism, spray paint on stones, and stolen fences. So it wasn't the harassment that drove Roach from the property. She experienced a personal tragedy that led her to sell the land in 1993 to a business called the Collins Company. Of course, everybody knows that in Indiana. So in 2005, Collins Company transferred ownership of the property to Collins Properties, a company based in South Carolina, with an address tied to an amusement machine supplier. That's pretty cool, I think. So the new owner had seemingly done little to the land. The ruins still stand. They still stand today, too. So, and Roach rails against those who would transform the history of Mistletoe Falls into the legend of the Witch's Castle. Why? So, quote, this has nothing to do with witchery. This has nothing to do with Satanism. Well, where did Satanism come in? Why would you equate Satanism with witchcraft? Are you ignorant? I think so. So, Roach said, quote, this was a consecrated chapel that has been wrongly treated. Okay, so, but in 2008, Collins Properties granted permission to Stewart, the paranormal investigator, to scour the land for ghostly activity, and she claims she found some. Alright, let's see what Stewart found. Okay, so this is the ghost story. So, Stewart visited the Witch's Castle for the first time as a teenager. Her friends wanted to see the much talked about spot. Today, Stewart is a medium. I'm sure you are. She gets messages from the dead for the living, she says. But at the time, she didn't know she had the ability. Really? I don't know, that just kind of sounds fake. So when a young Stewart turned around in the Witch's Castle only to catch a sight of a woman dressed in an old-fashioned attire, she was surprised. The lady extended her hand to Stewart, and Stewart cried out to her friends. Quote, do you not see her? Do you not see the lady? She asked. They didn't. It's because you probably didn't even see it. I mean, come on. Now, many mediums, especially here, will go on and on about what they see, except if you have a very big mouth and you overly tell the truth like I do. But I still don't do that. Anyways, alright, so no, they did not see what she saw. Stewart started walking toward the woman, but as she got closer, the person vanished. Stewart's friend teased her. They asked her if she was on drugs, which she probably was. But Stewart wasn't, which she probably was. And when she left the site with her group, she probably went and smoked a joint. She couldn't stop thinking about the woman. I put the joint thing in there. So she wanted to go back and find out who she was, and to get the rest of her drugs that she had stashed. Her LSD. and Special K. Alright, so in 2008, Stewart finally got her chance. Oh, okay, she finally got her chance to go back. I bet those drugs weren't any good anymore. So it was the same year she founded the Paranormal Research and Resource Society, where Collins Properties agreed to let her and her group on the property to investigate. So it wasn't long into their visit that something supernatural happened, Stewart said. Stewart was broadcasting live on the internet radio, walking around the property and talking when she heard the sharp sound of crying. So Stewart tore her earpiece out. At the same time, her now husband spotted a 6-foot-tall shadow person and started walking toward it. Okay. Now, what does this sound like? Have you guys watched the new Slender Man movie? There you go. And Slender Man was around back then too. Now it's snowing. Beautiful. Alright. Okay, where did I go? Okay, yes, the 6-foot-tall shadow person started walking toward it. Stewart began yelling at her partner, telling him not to touch it. But as they got closer, the shadow dissipated. Of course. That's exactly how the Slender Man legend goes. So, okay, quote, "It was like somebody turned on a fan," unquote, Stewart said. So the crying stopped. Later, Stewart found out that the noise was what a fox sounded like. Yeah, obviously, you're not a medium. Stewart and her group returned to the witch's castle several times, recording their experiences there. Oh god, here we go. They used a device called a ghost box to communicate with any spirits that might have been trapped on the property. Why do you need a ghost box if you're a medium? I don't. So, the ghost box is really a Radio Shack radio that Stewart uses to scan the airways. Okay, I know where people are telling me on my comments about the Radio Shack radio. So it lands on a different station, and the words it picks up are often answers to the question Stewart asks. Stewart doesn't always believe that ghosts use the words of others to form their responses, but rather they manipulate the radio's energy to create their own words. Maybe. So to prove it, Stewart often asks ghosts to use curse words, which aren't allowed on air. They often do, she says. At the witch's castle, Stewart and her group made recordings that, after listening back, sounded like full sentences. So, one conversation Stewart thinks she captured is between two ghosts. A little eavesdropping, are you, Stewart? So, quote, "Do you hear the voices?" One says. Quote, "Yes, they're trying to get there." Wait, yes, trying to get there, the other replies. "How?" "Punch through the vortex." Unquote. So, Stewart believes that a second recording is from the mysterious shadow, using expletives. What? Expletives? Is that even a word? It tells her to go away and not to mess around with it. I would tell her the same thing. Sorry, but I would. So, okay, so Stewart's experiences at the witch's castle left her desperate for more information. Well, she's probably desperate for drugs, too. She wandered through the town of Utica, knocking on doors and seeking people who could talk about the property. Desperate, hungry much. She found an older man, who she says is now dead. The man said he knew the original owners of Mistletoe Falls, and he also had heard of another legend about a murder that had taken place on the property long before Doreen bought it. There we go. Alright. So, a note. Stewart has never found any evidence to corroborate the man's tale, and Baird's History of Clark County, Indiana, which documents the early days of the area, makes no mention of it, despite describing several accounts of killings between Native Americans and settlers. So the man told Stewart that a young boy had once lived on the property with his parents. A robber from a nearby area invaded their home, killing the boy's mother and father. So the boy grew up, and the robber was executed for other crimes. Still consumed with anger, the boy, then a man, abducted 7 members of the robber's family and kept them at his old home. Oh, that's wonderful. That's very wonderful. Alright, so one day he hanged them all in the trees of Mistletoe Falls. Afterward, he shot himself. Oh. So Stewart believes that the 7 souls of his victims are trapped at the witch's castle, and that the orphaned boy is the shadow person turned evil by his obsession for revenge. Yeah, I'm not buying it. I'm not buying this story, her story. So, protecting the past. So despite her experience at the witch's castle or Mistletoe Falls, Stewart is like Roach. She doesn't think that the property is sacred, but she does believe that those seeking to trespass on it are in the wrong. She doesn't understand why people would vandalize it, and she's also sad to see it sit unused. So take the land and do something with it, she said. Turn it into an overlook or maybe a park, she suggests. Because the area may or may not be haunted, but both Stewart and Roach agree that it's pretty. That's very different. Very different. So yeah, that's the famous witch's castle of Utica. And you guys have seen these pictures. I mean, it's gorgeous. It really is gorgeous. So, okay, now we have the witch's circle. And this is really cool. I don't know if I've been here, but this is also a little more of the witch's circle. So, and there is a small town here in Indiana named Daleville. So, that's surrounded in mystery and legend. There's a small cemetery in the middle of nowhere that has many strange legends behind it. One of them is that there's a supposed circle where witches used to once meet at and cast spells. Others say that this is where they would conjure demons and dark entities, if you believe witches actually do that kind of stuff. Really. Others say that there's an outline of a woman who is said to have been murdered there. Others say it was a hoax, played by someone a long time ago to prank some people. Others say that there are strange things that go on there. Could this be a place of energy? There are tales that this place has become a cemetery because the locals in the area felt that it was a good place to bury the dead at. So it could be that there's an energy circle drawing people towards it. There have been odd ghost stories and other strange glowing lights in the cemetery. People also reported feeling really strange when being there. So could this all be the work of stories, or there's something actually going on here? So you guys can actually visit the this is strangeandcreepy.com, and you can actually NAPS, Naps on YouTube, Haunted Indiana Witches Circle. And what they do is they investigate it, so you guys can find that there too. So I thought that was pretty cool though. So So yes. Wow. Is this mine? No, this is not mine. Oh no, these are really bad ones. So yeah, we have a lot of legends. So, alright, so we have Witchcraft Topic of History lecture. So, this is a really cool place. I've been here. It's an amazing mansion. It is gorgeous. I have pictures I will post on my public page for you guys to see, because it is amazing and I love it. So, alright, so the History Museum presents the lecture Insights in History, Witches, Women, and Risk of Colonial New England. So by Elizabeth E. Dunn at 1:30 p.m. So the mythology around the Salem witch trials captured our imagination as a nation, but history has much deeper and more important lessons to teach us. So a professor of history and the dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences at Indiana University, South Bend, Dunn will present a lecture that explores how the Puritans really felt about the witches and why sometimes some people were at risk of losing their lives when accused. So an Inquisition chair from the early 1500s will be shown on a guided tour of the first floor of the Oliver Mansion. And the Oliver Mansion is where we went, so that's really cool. So, wow. And the Inquisition chair, wow. Well, that was it for that one. Wow, really? That's lame. Very lame. Oh. At your leisure, beware of the witch. Beware of what witch? Oh. It's cute. Okay, we have some really cool stuff here. Alright, now we have a very cute house. Looks like a gingerbread house. So, alright, so this is a 1960s era postcard, promises a country-style meal served by the Sloan family. So a once popular way to make your business stand out for competition was to build a structure to look like the theme represented. Folks around Indianapolis, have seen these examples throughout the years, from a seafood restaurant built like a riverboat to an upside-down house to promote an area home builder. So, a long-standing restaurant in our metropolis embraced the theme of A Brothers Grimm fairy tale about two wayward children and their encounters with a cannibalistic witch. So, that's pretty cool. So here goes. Alright, between 1959 and 1960, Purdue electrical engineer Alvin Sloan went into the restaurant business with his wife, Ruth. So the Sloans converted a small house on Allisonville Road to look something out of a Bavarian fairy tale. They named their restaurant the Storybook House Restaurant of Hansel and Gretel, offering country-style meals. Perhaps the threat of a cannibal witch helped keep fussy children at bay in the dining room. So the Sloan family continued to operate the restaurant until 1972. So no full-size gingerbread house should ever go unused. So the business then came under the stewardship of Frank Muller, a German immigrant who came to the United States after a successful career in restaurants and in hotels in his native country. Mr. Muller continued to successfully operate under the Hansel and Gretel name with the fairy tale theme. So what became of this little storybook house? The Indiana Department of Transportation certainly didn't do it any favors by bypassing Allisonville Road with a new expressway in 1961. In later years, Allisonville curved to meet the new road instead of going through the Keystone Avenue, causing potential diners to have to turn on an abandoned stub of land to access the property. So Frank Muller sold the Hansel and Gretel in 1985, and went to have great success running the Indianapolis Athletic Club and saving the Athenaeum's Rathskeller restaurant from failure in 1993. So the house on Allisonville was not devoured by hungry children, but by demolition contractors in 2004. According to city records, the last known property owner was a company by the name of DWI Entertainment. Original owner Alvin Sloan lived to the age of 101. Wow. And he passed away in 2008, outliving his creative restaurant. Wow. It's pretty cool. Very different. Very, very different. So. So yeah, there's just a little more history. Oh, I love to see that my videos are being used on different websites. Copyright at muddychevy.art? No. Wow, really? Didn't know my, Wow, that kind of pisses me off. I had no idea. I did not know that my stuff was there. Wait a minute. Yeah, that kind of pisses me off. Oh, and you can download it too now. I'm not liking this whatsoever. Okay, anyways, sorry guys, I don't want to see my shit being stolen. That's all there is to it. Alright, so now this is really cool. So October 29th, 2015. So in 1660, witchcraft was part of everyday life. Hysteria that ran without check. So if you stop people on the street in New Haven in 1660, everyone would have things to say and stories to tell about witchcraft. So it was a part of everyday life. So no more and no less, says John Putnam. Demos. So, alright, Halloween brings to mind the images of ghosts, goblins, and of course witches. The history of witches and witchcraft dates as far back as ancient Greece and Rome to the late Middle Ages, early modern times in Europe, and to life in early New England. I'm trying to get comfortable. Sorry. It's not working. So, it's pretty cool. Very cool. He writes, okay, so John Putnam Demos, Professor Emeritus of History at Yale University, is the author of 2 books on witches, Witchcraft and Witch Hunts, The Enemy Within, 2,000 Years of Witch Hunting in the Western World. Yeah, whatever. And Entertaining Satan, Witchcraft and the Culture of Early New England. That sounds like a bunch of shit. And it probably is. So, what led him to this research topic? So, as a young historian, he wanted to apply interdisciplinary methods such as anthropology and psychology to historical problems. So witchcraft appealed to me as a good topic for that type of approach. So he says, I did not choose this topic because I was especially interested in witchcraft, but rather because I thought the topic of witchcraft offered me the opportunity to do the type of research that I wanted to pursue. Yeah, to exploit. And make money off exploiting. So, in the 1960s, while researching witches and witchcraft, He says, I was surprised to learn that I am a direct descendant of one of the leading witch hunters. Oh, well, that's wonderful, asshole. Witch hunters in the famous Salem witch trials. His name is John Putman. My name is John Putman Demos. I found that I have ancestry that goes all the way back to Salem. Well, you keep your witch hunters there, in Salem. That's a bunch of shit. So, he says, I remember the moment when I realized that I was a descendant of a witch hunter. I was reading about these people named Putnam, who were right in the middle of the witch hunt. So he goes, he says, I got up from the desk where I was seated, and I went back to the other part of the library where there were genealogy books. I found the Putman family genealogy, and lo and behold, I can trace a direct line from these people in the witch hunt to myself. I remember it. Made the hairs stand up on the back of my neck. Did it? I hope it did. So, how would you define witchcraft versus Wicca, for example? So he goes on to say, people at the time defined witchcraft as the use of supernatural means to cause harm, and they put the devil behind it. Alright, yes. So witches were seen as his followers. Wicca today is almost the opposite, a supernatural force for good in the lives of its believers. Now, Wicca is just fluffy. Okay, so where does the history of witch hunts begin? It didn't begin in Salem. So the belief in witchcraft and witch hunting has been present in cultures all around the world, and there are many where it is still present today. It's not specific to one time and one place like early New England. On the contrary, it's quite oblique. There was witch hunting in classical times in ancient Greece and Rome, in the late Middle Ages and early modern times in Europe, and there was a very large ramping up of witch hunting. That time period was almost what most historians refer to now as the European witch craze of early modern times. So, where'd I go? So, yeah, more witch hunting took place during that time than ever before, and on a much wider scale. It would be hard to find any movement in the history of the whole world where there was not some kind of impulse toward witch hunting. So obviously, it does go back further. So how did witchcraft in New England differ from witchcraft in England? So almost all of the New Englanders were themselves English people, so they brought with them all of their beliefs, including their beliefs in witchcraft. If you compare trial records from this side of the ocean to trial records from the same time in England, you would find very little difference. So it was pretty direct cultural transfer. So, how did witchcraft shape the cultural history of early colonial New England? So it did not shape the culture. What didn't it? Did it? It was a central part of the culture, all mixed up with religion and community life. If you stopped people on the street in New Haven in 1660, everyone would have things to say and stories to tell about witchcraft. It was part of everyday life, no more and no less. So what characteristics made an individual prone to charges of witchcraft? Alright, so we can start with gender and age. So, about 80% of the accused witches were women. This is the fundamental fact in almost every culture where witchcraft and witch hunting have been carefully studied. By far, the largest demographic category of accused witches were middle-aged women. This goes against the popular stereotype that witches were old women. So this has something to do with the position of women in the community past their childbearing years. So in that it was a difficult time of transition for them. Women who were unusually assertive and aggressive with their relationships with other people in the community, and women who did not behave according to the peaceful standards of those communities also were especially likely to be targeted in witch hunts. Some of this gets just a bit ridiculous. Oh, the snow is so pretty. I'm going on and I'm like, oh, the snow is so pretty. So, wow. I think we'd all be burned. Thank God that's never going to happen again. Or at least I hope not. I don't think so. Alright. So, why is this topic still relevant today? Although we don't have witch hunting in the old traditional way, we do have some equivalents. Oh yeah, we do. So in fact, it's almost commonplace. The anti-communist McCarthy era so-called witch hunts in the mid-20th century are an excellent example of this. Another example occurred in the 1980s and the 1990s. In many parts of the United States, we saw a kind of witch hunt centered... I don't want anything for Valentine's Day. So in many parts of the United States, we saw a kind of witch hunt centered on the alleged abuse of children in daycare centers. In 1985 or so, teachers in daycare centers in different parts of the country were accused of abusing the very young children that they were supposed to be caring for. There were hundreds of these cases, and it spread kind of like wildfire across the nation. So this guy says, I researched and wrote about one of the more well-known examples, the Fells Acre Daycare Center case. I spoke to some of the teachers who were accused in the child care cases, and I am obviously convinced that they were wrongfully accused. So there was some kind of hysteria, similar to what happened in Salem. Okay, so that doesn't rule out that it can happen again, which would suck. Yuck. So, similar to what happened in Salem, that ran without check for about 10 years in this country. Finally, in the mid-1900s, wow, that's not that far, many of these convictions were reversed. So there were many common elements in these cases to the literal witch hunts of several centuries ago. Okay, so it is the case that the vast majority of witch hunting the people who were accused were not guilty of anything except what their neighbors thought about them. Ridiculous. So it could come back. It could actually happen again. It's really scary. It's really scary to think about. So, okay, I don't even want to really read this one, but it says, do you believe in witchcraft? And the guy says, no, I do not. I think it is a terrible mistake and a scourge that has cost people their lives and have wreaked havoc for centuries. Really? Really? Why smoking and drinking often go together? So yeah, just kind of weird, very odd. I mean, all these people, still get accused. So we can actually, connect the lines from today to Salem. Well, actually to Europe, because that's where it originated. Not Salem, Europe. Because those people came from where? Europe to where? Salem. Wow, I can't believe that my videos are on here. I wonder who did this. I wonder why. I don't know. Okay, now there is another one. Alright, here it is. 100 Steps, Clay County, Indiana. So the witch's grave, and this is a cemetery legend. And this is Michael Mason, 22 years, student, American, Terre Haute, Indiana, April 25th, 1994. How do I get this to go up? Whoopsie doopsie doopsie. Whoopsie. Nope, I want to go back. Okay, so, the witch's grave. So this is another legend of the 100 Steps Cemetery. The cemetery is located between Terre Haute and Brazil, Indiana, and dates back to the 1700s. The cemetery lies on the side of the hill, and the 100 steps lead up to through the cemetery. there is still a road at the bottom of the hill, so there is now only 63 steps. Some people say that there are graves underneath the road. Well, how do I find this? Can I go up just a bit? Maybe? Maybe go up? Here we go. Okay, so yeah, we have a lot of history. I mean, tons of legends. I found an amazing site with so much lore, witch lore. So, alright. So, some people even say that there are graves underneath the road. All graves in any cemetery lie east and west. This is so the graves can see the sun coming up and going down. There is one grave at the 100-step cemetery that lies north to south. There is no wind going over the grave either. If you take a match and light it over the grave, the match will go out. If you take a match and light it over the grave, it will not go out. People say this particular grave belongs to a witch. I like that. So yeah, we have a lot of stuff. So, so here we have witchcraft and witches. Ouch. Wow, this is really old. This is like really, really old. Okay. I don't even know when this was written. Wow. Okay, so some of the early settlers believed in witchcraft in a mild form. If a gun did not shoot well, it was said to be bewitched. If the butter refused to gather, some said a witch had put a spell on the churn. If the soaps wouldn't thicken, it was said a witch was the cause. If a hen failed to hatch well, or a cow should give bloody milk, it was attributed to some witches. So let's see if I can actually zoom out a little more and actually get this. I have no idea what's going on right now with this. This is some really weird website. Okay, here we go. Okay, so early in the 1830s, a band of nomads named Griffies looted in southern Gibson County, about 1.5 miles northwest of Oakland City. They built floorless huts in something around a large spring. There were 30 or 40 people in the colony, all of whom were superstitious. They were looked upon as unidolent, but at one feature about their manner of living, which was commendable, they had several old people with them, whom they or cared for, or who were not related to them, and had no claim upon them. Okay, so this is weird. So this is a really different. I mean, very different. This So yeah, you can see it's very hard to actually read any of that. Yeah, you can't even read that, so there's a lot going on here. I mean, a lot. Ouija board. The Bloody Mary. The actual Bloody Mary. Ouija board, Terre Haute, Indiana. I wonder what that one's about. Okay, so only the antiques. Well, I can't even like scroll down. Okay, let's see if I can actually do this. Okay, so it goes, I heard the Ouija board game that they sell in the stores made by Parker Brothers do not actually work. The only boards that truly work are the original board made by the witches. These boards can be found at some antique shop. Some collector's notes. I have actually seen one of the boards that someone bought at an antique shop. He believed that it was the only board that could truly work. For the money he spent, it ought to work. So, let's see. Yeah, you can't really do much with this. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, then we have Bloody Mary of Pike County, Indiana. I mean, we have a lot of Bloody Mary legends. It's crazy. So this one is actually the witch. So there was a woman named Mary Worth who was very ugly. No one really knew if she was born that way or if she had an accident. People started avoiding her because they were afraid of what might happen to them if they hung around her. Mary finally got so sick of her reflection in the mirror that she went into a mad rage and shattered the mirror she was standing in front of. It cut her face very badly. It is said that Mary was a witch, and if you stand in front of... How do I get more of this? Oh, if you stand in front of the mirror in the dark and call her name, she will appear in the mirror. So that is Pike County, Indiana, Bloody Mary. So, I mean, there's just so much. Wow. You guys can go to visions.indstate.edu for all of this. I mean, there is so much. There, Bloody Mary, let's see. Bloody Mary of Pike County, Bloody Mary of Clay County, Bloody Mary of Park County, Bloody Mary of Lake County, Bloody Mary of Marshall County. Oh, that's my county. Bloody Mary Virgo County. Haunted house ghost hangs self. There's so much here. It is amazing. So you guys have to, yeah, Indiana Folklore Collection, Indiana State University Archives. So much going on with this. So I'm going to put this on my public page real quick. If I can. Done. I will put this on my public page for you guys. I can't. So I'm going to post it on my regular page and then I'll transfer it to my other page for you guys. So it's really cool. Really cool. So, oh, my leg is asleep. So alright guys, yeah, a little more legend and lore. I thought it was pretty cool, especially all the Bloody Marys. There's a ton. There really are. So yeah, just divination, mirror. So alright guys, I hope you all have a good day, and I will see you guys tomorrow. And I love you guys all the way from Venus all the way back down. So I will see you all tomorrow, and everybody have fun, stay safe, and yeah, I'll see you guys tomorrow. And I love you all very, very, very much. So bye guys.